And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Coleman. Joining me right now is Max Cohen and Yanis Shanaeus. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 1-0 victory against Nottingham Forest. The three of us are back together after a huge victory. This is going to be fun. Before I go to the guys, just want to just mention one more time to please check out the Cottage Talk Patreon page. I am actually lining up some really interesting interviews coming up soon, possibly one this week. I also have the player rating show. I have interviews with journalists, interviews with opposition fans. I got a lot going on. So if you're interested, please check it out. And if you like what you see on there, there are 4 free episodes. Please do become a member, a paid member. Okay. Let's get to it, guys. Mr. Cohen, I'll go to you first. How you doing? And opening thoughts on that victory yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the form of the start of the season has been excellent. And I think we're all just fortunate that, this team seems to be gelling and we're only in late September. So a lot of what we'd said in earlier shows about it might take until the winter or the new year for everyone to be on their best. I mean, this is a team who can go far. And I think, Russ, you were optimistic at the start of the year. I got to give you some credit here. This team has potential. And just look what we've done to teams who are on a good form. We go in there, we play our style. And it wasn't pretty. And I think we got really lucky as well, because I don't think that was a penalty.
We'll talk about that.
But that's just a great professional performance. I mean, I know it's kind of a cliche, but we went out there, got a 1-0 away win at a tough place to go against a team who's shocked a lot of people this year. And that seems to be a theme for us. We go against teams who are heavily favored or have a good start, and suddenly we're going to be the team that's heavily favored in a couple of weeks because we're 6th in the league. It's unreal.
Okay, so spoiler alert, one of my talking points will be this, but I'm just going to go right back to you. Isn't it refreshing and positive that they won in a different way, Max?
I don't know about refreshing or positive. I was happy we won, but I mean, God, it was nerving when they have 8 minutes out there and you're thinking, how are we going to hang on? But no, I think, yeah, it was nice to have an away win, a first clean sheet of the season, right? But I hate at the end of the match when we have 1 goal buffer. I wish we could get 2. I know against Newcastle we had 2, but it was right at the very end. But it seems that's the theme of our matches this year. Every match we're in it. Every single match, no matter who we're playing. And I think that's what Marco Silva teams do well in the Prem, is that we rarely get outplayed.
This is true. This is very true. And we'll talk about the coaches coming up, because I think this is a serious chess match. You saw that in the first half. Mr. Janaeus, how are you doing? And your thoughts on the victory?
Well, firstly, all good in the hood here in the frozen tundra of Canada. Very pleased with the win. It was. Remember last year when we were 3-0 down at halftime, and Marco threw a conniption and put all the subs on. But remember the year before we won 4-2. I remember Paulinho scoring 1 and Harrison scoring 1. It was going to be a difficult game, and I'd have taken the point. But the manner of the goal was what it was. We could have had a second one when Tete got bundled over. I thought we defended very well. There were a couple of really stand-up performances. And in the end, considering we've got City next week, this was a very big win, because it sort of gives us a little bit of freedom just to change things up next week against a City side that don't look as fluid as normal.
No Rodri.
No Rodri. It's made a difference. And I expect a couple of changes in the lineup next week. But nonetheless, a big win, and we're in 6th. Yay!
We are in 6th. I'm going to just share some comments. I already shared this one as well, but I'm going to share it again. Greetings to the 3 wise men, Russ, Max, and Yanis. That's our friend Chris Goodwin, who happens to be a Liverpool supporter, but Chris always supports the show. Thank you, Chris. This is from Black, White, and Fred. Hope everyone is well. Not feeling too dizzy from the lofty heights of 6. Going back to Max talking about my ambition, my thoughts at the beginning of the season. Hey, it is what it is. That's where they are right now. Okay. So, guys, let's get to it. Let's get to my Cottage Talk talking points. I've got several, and I actually put this on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. So I share my thoughts on it already, but I'm going to go to the guys and get their thoughts on these talking points. So, Max, we'll go to you first. Did it feel like Fulham were playing like they were the home side? It felt like it to me, especially in the first half. And I think this was almost by design, because of how Nottingham Forest and Nuno set his team up in this 4-4-2 to stifle Fulham, to stop Fulham from playing. I find that interesting considering they're the home team. Fulham dominated the ball and were dictating the play. Didn't it feel like they were the home team?
I think it felt like there were two away teams at times, honestly, Russ,
Okay.
because the first half was just dreadful. It was really dull. It was not a great advert for the Premier League. I wish I had been watching Chelsea Brighton if I wanted excitement.
Oh.
I mean, come on, polar opposite in terms of goal mouth action. And Giannis, you look surprised. That Chelsea Brighton game, there are some funny moments. I mean, the first goal that Chelsea
I
conceded,
saw it.
and then the second goal they conceded right after, it was hilarious. Anyway, though, they were so narrow, rigid, right, Russ, as you mentioned.
Yes.
It's a negative type of play by Nuno in some ways, but it's worked for them this season, and I think it worked for us. The only outlet we had was Adama Traore.
Right.
That was it, and he had some great runs down the right wing, but his crossing wasn't the best.
He was being doubled up too.
He's being doubled up and still was getting by players. I mean, every time I see him play, I see new things, and I think he's exceptional with the ball at his feet. But yeah, we couldn't get anything going. But as you mentioned, neither really could they. In a match of really few chances in that first half. So it did feel negative from Nottingham Forest, but it did make it even more surprising when the second half just opened up like a cup tie, really.
Yeah, it totally did. That's a good point. Over to you, Giannis. I want to get your thoughts on this. You and I talked about this before we went live, that they did this. Nuno did this against Liverpool. My only thing about this is that they're the home team. They're the home side. Wouldn't you want to be more positive? But I think he made it up in his mind, at least in the first half, he was going to stop Fulham from playing. And he did. That worked. But overall, things changed in the second half. But it did feel like Fulham were on the front foot for the majority of the first half and maybe even parts of the second half.
It does tell you how big Morgan Gibbs White is to their team, though.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. We haven't even talked about that.
He's absolutely massive. You take him out of that lineup. But I think that Espirito Santo missed a trick yesterday. He should have started Callum Hudson-Odoi.
I agree with that.
William's second half was I think a bit too little, too late. It was a very narrow lineup, and players like Emile Smith-Rowe, I thought, had a very quiet first half. It didn't really suit the way Fulham likes to play. But then when we scored the goal, they opened up all of a sudden, and we had a lot of space. Players like Nelson to come on and do his trickery and what have you. So it was. I think it may have. This game made me feel like it went back to the 5-0 win last year at home, where
Really?
we absolutely slaughtered them, and it was almost like, well, we beat them 3-1, but maybe that was a bit of a fluke. We got to respect them. We don't have Gibbs White. We've got the home crowd who are, they're one of the best in the league, to be honest. And we should be able to get over the line, but it wasn't a B. I don't think that the first half was boring. I think it was very cat and mouse. It was cagey. There was not a lot really in it, and it felt to me like it was going to be a 0-0. That it was going to take a set piece or something crazy. As it was a penalty. But is this the first penalty we've got this year in the league?
I think it is, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been overdue. And sometimes you've got to get wins a scruffy. And this one was a scruffy one. We take it and we move on, because next week it's City. And we know that's going to be a very tough match.
Okay, great. Before we move on, let me go back to you and talk about why Nuno did this. I'm glad that you mentioned Morgan Gibbs White being out. Maybe that's a factor, but is this also a credit to Marco Silva and Fulham that he thought to do this like he did against Liverpool? Is it about Fulham that he was that concerned that it's like, listen, this is how we have to play, Giannis?
I think it's a huge compliment to Marco Silva.
That's what I mean, right?
He's made I think I read that he has made fewer lineup changes for starting 11 than any other in the division so far. He's got his 11. He's got his 11 now. I mean, he was asked at the press conference about Castagna and Tete, and he gave, I thought, a very good answer. But right now, if you look at that 11, that is more or less his starting lineup. You could possibly argue that a player like Berger could come in next week against City. Castagna could get a run out, but that apart, the 11 that you saw yesterday is his strongest 11, which is perfect. You've got a settled lineup. You've got no injuries. You play with a level of consistency in terms of, playing together and the style that you play. And Santo, he played for certain things, and I thought, with all due respect to James Ward-Prowse is not Morgan Gibbs-White.
No.
He's not that kind of 10. And set pieces, yeah, I'd never bet against him, but he's not really a creator other than dead ball situations. So that was respect to Fulham, which was good, and I think in the end it played into our hands. We just needed to score. I think the longer the game went on, the more likely they could possibly score, because we'd start getting tired and feeling more stifled, and we weren't creating anything, and therefore we'd get frustrated. But it's not the way it worked. We got the penalty, and after that time, then of course they had to open up, see if they could get the equaliser, and they didn't. Hooray!
Absolutely. Okay, let's go to my next talking point. Max, I'll go right back to you. Cottage Talk talking points. Giannis and I talked about this last week, so that's why I'm starting with you. How much has Joachim Andersen upgraded the Fulham defense? Because I think it's been a ripple effect. I think Bassi has started to really gel with him as a partnership. And then, of course, you got your fullbacks playing very well, and then your goalkeeper. But I believe it starts with Andersen. I think this has really changed Fulham defensively. I want to get your thoughts on this, because I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, I think massively. I think we probably went from a B defense to an A minus defense, is how I describe it, from Diop to Andersen. He just has that kind of effect to go up that many levels. The distribution is the thing I think I see the most, and it's the comfort alongside Bassi, because if it's Bassi Diop, I think both those center backs might feel nervous, but I think Andersen's calming presence just makes playing at the back easier, and he has the outlet ball, right? The diagonals everyone loves, he has that. And I mean, the thing that always amazes me about Andersen is when the set piece comes in and he's facing his own goal, they can just clear it every time. He seems to just clear danger when no one else would be brave enough to put a head on that ball for fear of scoring an own goal. He just knows exactly where to place his body. I think he's been a revelation, great signing by the Cons, and you have to give him credit there, because it was expensive. He's not the youngest player anymore, former loan player, but I think this is going to turn out to be a really good signing for us.
I think he's changed that defense. Nothing against Diop. And I think Diop actually, believe it or not, Max, before I go to Giannis, I think he's actually added something to come on at the end of games right now, especially obviously when Fulham are ahead, to see matches out. I think it actually has helped out Diop. I want to get your thoughts about his, I'm going to call it, pivotal role at the end of these last two matches.
Yeah, I mean, he comes on. It's a Scotty Parker role.
It actually is. I want to give Parker some credit. I can't believe I'm saying this.
I mean, they come on in every game we play. Basically, it's a 1-goal game. When we're leading, he just comes on and he sets up shop. Three center backs at the back, more solidity, bigger presence in set pieces. I think it's a good stroke of genius by Silva in terms of man management. Because Diop can't be happy to have his starting place get lost just like that. And Marco will say to him, listen, you're not the starter, but you're a big part of my plans. I need you in training every week, because you're going to come on to the match. If it's close, and it will be, you're going to be the player I trust to see out this game. So it's turned out well. I guess he also came on against West Ham, and that didn't turn out too well. But it did. I'm not sure. But that goal was not his fault in any event. Not at all.
Okay, very good there, my friend. All right, over to you, Giannis. You and I, like I said, we talked about this before, but I think we're seeing this more and more, especially when we go to man of the match. I've already been putting out feelers for what fans were thinking of for man of the match, and Andersen is all over it, along with some other players. So let's talk about it again. Thoughts on Andersen, not just in this match, but overall what he has done to this defense. And I actually think he's helped out Bassi a great deal.
Big time. He's been an absolute behemoth. That's the only way I can describe it. Magnificent yesterday. Just outrageous. And good players make other players better players. And that's the thing about getting Andersen. We remember the 2021 season, how well he played for us on loan. We remember how disappointed we were. We got relegated, that he went to Palace. But we got him back. He's obviously happy to be back. He's playing absolutely out of his skin, and he's brilliant to have there. He's absolutely brilliant. And the Cards deserve an enormous amount of credit. I totally agree. I mean, it's a hell of a signing, and Bassi looks comfortable. Robinson's doing his thing. Tete's doing his thing. We've conceded. Is it 5 goals we've conceded now in the league?
That's it. It's
5
5 goals,
goals in
and I
6
think
league
we're
games.
tied for second.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, and it's if we have a right sort of system and set up for City next week, don't be surprised if we make things difficult for them by any means, because then without Rodri and without Kevin De Bruyne, let's not forget that they're not exactly on top of the game. I mean, Newcastle gave them a good old good old fight. You're saying we all know what we did to the Tuna Army last week, but I think Anderson's has been absolutely superb.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on to another talking point. We've talked about this a little bit off air, so I'm going to go to Max to get us started because I think we're going to disagree here, which is always good. We should be disagreeing, but this is going to be two parts. The first part is this: did Fulham deserve a penalty? Then we're going to talk about the penalty taker and the controversy that goes along with that, because I have a comment from our friend Colm Bugler. I'll be sharing that in a second. Let's start here. Max, I think we deserve it 100%. I know how you feel. I'm curious why you don't think Fulham deserved the penalty.
I mean, everyone here watches a lot of football week in, week out.
Yeah.
I see a lot of incidents in the box like that. And I think I see 75% of them just go uncalled. That's just a coming together. If you ask me, the replay kept happening. It kept trying to show a stamp on the Achilles. I just didn't see it. I mean, it must have happened, but the angles that I were shown weren't conclusive. The ball is not a ball that Pereira is going to get to as well. That's what I think. I mean, again, this is all a judgment call. We can disagree, but it just seemed incredibly soft. That it just seemed like a coming together. It happens all the time.
Okay, so that's the way you're looking at it. Giannis, over to you. What is your view of this?
I thought it was a pen, if only because if it was anywhere else on the pitch, it would have been a foul. And I think it's a double. I think he could have got away with it if he hadn't got the push in.
See, that is the key. I agree.
Yeah, the Achilles he might have done, but then there was the push.
Push that goes with it.
The push that goes with it. And I know the Forest fans are up in arms about it. But as our old friend Arsene Wenger used to say, decisions have a way of evening themselves up throughout the year. Some might say it was soft, but I think that push was the kicker. And I actually, if anything, although you could argue that the push on Tete was even worse. I mean, it was that wasn't given. But
right. And I'm just sharing this right now from our friend Colm Bugler, who says, I thought you were going to talk about the push on Tete.
Yeah, and that was a push. It was absolutely a push, and he's just waved it on. Oh, the refs! I mean, you got to love them. You do. They give you L's as the buggers. Yeah, the push. Black, White, and Fred said it perfectly. The push made it. That's what did it. And then you led to the second thing, which of course was the controversy around the taking of the penalty.
Yep. Let me share this with you, Giannis, and then we'll talk about it. So this is from Colm again. Any thoughts on Jimenez taking the penalty off Andreas? I thought Pereira was still injured and therefore had to go off the pitch. So share your thoughts on all this, Giannis, and then I'll go to Max.
I'm going to watch the replay of the game later on. I can't remember whether Pereira went off. This is going to be a key, because if he wasn't there, then obviously Jimenez takes it. But if Pereira is the penalty taker, it's like that last year you had the Cole Palmer thing with Chelsea. Then you mentioned before with the boo-boo camera and
I talked to you about that.
And Mitro thing.
Yeah.
If Pereira is the penalty taker, then Pereira takes the penalty. But if he was off, then Jimenez takes it. Regardless, really, storm in a teacup. Couldn't care less. Whoever took it, score the bloody goal. We did. And we got the points. But there was a statement, I think it was in Facebook, where Marco said he dealt with it in the change rooms.
Right.
And obviously it's not going to fester. I don't believe that. They're two very good professionals, and it's good to see Raul in the goals. He's playing well right now.
Yeah.
So Munoz,
I think it's important, Giannis.
I like Munoz. He works very, very hard, but you have to go with the player who's scoring goals right now, and that's what he's doing. So
Okay. How about you, Max? What is your thoughts about all this? Because again, it's interesting, and I'm glad that Giannis mentioned this. Was Pereira off at this time? Was he off the pitch at this time? So maybe that changes the dynamic. But I actually thought that Pereira was the penalty taker. So I'm curious your view on this.
Why do you guys think Pereira was a penalty taker? Just curious.
but he's the designated penalty. According to Marco Silva, he's the designated penalty taker.
Oh, Marco said that?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that then, because you should never take a penalty off him, but I don't think he did leave the pitch. I'm not sure, because I feel like the camera would have flashed him standing on the end of the pitch, like all angry. I didn't see that.
I think Raul's going to get fined for this one. Because
he's got to score. That's bottom line.
He did score, but he went against process.
Because we never would have been talking about the Abubakar Kamara Mitrovic thing. What, 5-6 years later?
Yeah,
if Kamara scored.
That's a good point.
Well, we might have still talked about it. But it wouldn't be as big a moment.
I shouldn't say. I think we'd still be talking about it.
Yeah, but come on. The best part was that he missed, and then Mitrovic had to bail him out with the late winner. Anyway, though, yeah, I think that's so amateurish, honestly, when you see players fighting over a penalty, because it shows that, number one, who's the captain? Leno. Okay, I get it. Leno is not going to run up the pitch, but that's where your captain says something. And number two, it shows that the manager isn't respected enough, because you don't fear the manager's wrath if you go against his orders. But I think the injury played a role here. It was bizarre, but at least he scored. Now, Sells wasn't too far away from that penalty, because it was a stutter step, and it wasn't, but it was really well placed.
Double stutter step.
Yeah, I echo everything Giannis said about Jimenez. This is what, third goal of the year for him? Fourth. He's on great form, and every single year we talk about the Fulham striker situation after Mitrovic. I feel like people keep getting proved wrong, myself included. The first year was, Muniz can't do it, and then he scores 8 goals in a month, and then people are saying, I don't think anyone here was pushing for Jimenez to start per se, or maybe not. No one thought he'd do this well. So I think we don't know our strikers as well as we think we do.
Okay. Before we move on from this, Max, did they deserve a penalty?
No, I'm going to say no. Not that I care,
agree.
To be honest, Russ. Not that
I
care
know,
very much.
but I'm just telling you what I've been listening to, because I listen to a lot of Nottingham Forest podcasts, and I actually listened to BBC Nottingham after the match because I was curious. And this is exactly what they were focusing on, the penalty situations for both sides. So I don't think they deserve one at all.
And also, I think the Tete one was 100% a penalty, by the way. Okay. Later on, 100%.
Giannis?
Yeah, 100% a penalty. For me, there's 9-10 to get the ball. It wasn't a soft challenge; it was a blunt one. It's in the box. If it's a foul anywhere else in the field, you'd give it a free kick. If it's in the box, it's a penalty. And to me, it was a penalty. So, as I said, things even themselves out in the end. They're just bitter because they lost to us, and that's fine. We're sixth.
Love it. Okay, Giannis, to you first. I'm curious your view on this. I always like to talk about the coaches and who won the coaching battle. I actually think Nuno basically might have just outthought this, because I think he was trying too hard to basically outduel Marco on this, thinking what Marco was going to do, that he had to stop Marco. So I think in the end, Marco wins the coaching battle. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
And he made good substitutions.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he definitely had a game plan. The one thing I was worried about before the start of the season was the loss of Luis Boll and Morty and how that was going to impact the coaching setup. But it hasn't seemed to have affected us. And if you look back to the first game of the season at United, that's our only defeat. And good God, we should have got something out of that game as well. I mean, none of the games can return. Ipswich was not an easy game. Don't get me wrong, but
no,
spammers, we had them until the last kick of the game. We could have been in the top 4, which is astonishing.
It is crazy that we're having a conversation like this. I mean, this just tells you how far they've come. And Max, yes, I was right. But honestly, it just shows the evolution that Fulham have come in 3 years under Marco. That this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that they could have had more points, that Giannis is talking about we could be 4th now. I mean, how insane is that, Max?
Unreal. Unreal. So the only two matches we drop points are United and West Ham, right?
United, West
Ipswich
Ham,
down.
and Ipswich.
Ipswich. Okay, so Ipswich, I don't think we deserve to win there. But United, massively hard done by to lose, and West Ham should have won. Think about that. 4 more points. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's massive. It's massive what we achieved. And, I know it's the beginning of the season, and oftentimes there's a team who's up there who maybe you get surprised by in the top 6. But I don't even know what to say. The start's been fantastic. The City match will be 100% reality check, I think. But we'll see.
Okay. Stefan shares that Silva won the battle and his subs came in at the right time, like I was just mentioning, but there was about 20 minutes left, which is his way. This is true, Stefan, but he did get it right. I'm glad that you had mentioned this. I'm going to share this. I'm going to go back to you, Max. I'm curious your thoughts on this. What's going on with Jedi? Hardly ever getting forward anymore, not overlapping. It seems all our attacks now come down the right. That's interesting because last season it was all down the left. What are your thoughts on that? And then I'll go to Giannis.
I think Adama Chare is a big reason why we do the right, because suddenly he's our best attacking player in some ways. When there's an outlet you need, instead of going to Anthony, it's Adama because he can hold the ball better and he can just make something out of nothing. I think that's one theory. The other theory is the loss of Willian has been a real pain for Anthony. He just had such a great relationship with Willian and doesn't have that yet with Iwobi. So less comfortable with that, less willing to go forward and risk it if he's not, knowing exactly where Iwobi's going to play the ball like he did with Willian. So those are two theories I have.
How about you, Giannis? What are your thoughts about Jedi not overlapping as much? He still does, but maybe he's being more defensively minded than he did last season. And or to Max's point, maybe it has to do with William not being there.
I agree. I agree with Max. I think it's a lot to do with the Damatori. I actually thought Jodo looked a little tired yesterday. He has to do a lot of traveling as a player playing for the US, and at some point that takes its toll. I just think he looked a little bit under the weather yesterday. Not that he didn't play solidly, he certainly did. But Traore is such a monster on the right hand side. You're going to use him and use his pace and his wizardry, that it takes a lot of the pressure off Jedi, which is it's a good thing. I mean, it's like getting Smith Rowe. Suddenly, you got a different emphasis in the middle and on the left. That we have now different weapons we can hurt you with, and I think that's very, very important. But I wouldn't worry about Jedi. I think he's going to be just fine.
Okay, one final talking point, and then we'll talk about both halves, and I also will talk about the starting 11. I'll go to you first, Giannis. This is something that I really am concentrating on. Fulham found a different way to win. I actually was contacted by Tony Gold after the match, and he thought this was a great performance because Fulham won this in gritty fashion, that they won it a different way, that good teams find different ways to win when you're not able to get all the scoring opportunities. You still got to find a way to win, and that in the end, that might benefit Fulham throughout the season. What are your thoughts about finding a different way to win?
That's absolutely right. You're not always going to win it with open, attractive football. It wasn't the most open, attractive game yesterday, but we found a way to win. At the end of the day, you're judged on the results. If you'd ask a Fulham fan, with the games we've had, would we be sixth after 6 games? They'd chew your arm off. So we've got a couple of very difficult games coming up, but none of the teams scare me. None of them. I think we can put different lineups for different teams. We play differently at home than we do away, but I think we've got setups away that are could cause problems. We've got enough strength and depth where we can bring players in to shift the formation a little bit. I think we're in very good shape right now, and it wasn't the most fluid game ever, but
no,
could care less if we get the result. The Forest fans obviously will feel hard done by, but so be it.
Okay. Over to you, Max. I want to get your thoughts on this because we've already talked a little bit about it. You were not thrilled with basically the game. You didn't enjoy the game. I'm sure you enjoyed the victory, but
the first half, I'd say.
The first half, okay. But can you see the value of winning in a different way?
Oh, 100%. I think there's great value to it. I'm not diminishing that. I'm just saying it was from an attractive viewing
Okay.
perspective, it was miserable because, yeah, I mean, that's Forest's fault, frankly, because they stifled the game. And then once they needed to play, then they opened it up. I think what Giannis said at the beginning was right. The fact that Hudson-Odoi was on the bench was just idiotic. Obviously, it wasn't Forest's strongest lineup to start out with. And I think I don't like when managers do that, frankly, when they only seem to react once their team goes down. And you think, why couldn't you start out the match in a more positive manner and play to your strengths? I guess Forest think their strengths are sitting back, to be fair. But yeah, I think, in the final 30 minutes, it really opened up. And Forest went too far in the other direction, though. Then they had no midfield. So I think back to the coaching battle, I think Nuno got actually massively outcoached because he started out negative. Yep. And then when they were chasing the point, one commentator made the comment, Yates was the only player in the middle. It was either defenders or attacking wing players. That was it.
Very
and that's it was kind of amateurish by Nuno there. So I expected better from a team I'd heard so much about this year, honestly, from Forest. And they didn't really trouble Leno. I mean, there was the save he made in the offside.
Right. And except for the situation with Callum Hudson-Odoi, I mean, that was, that was pretty special. But beyond Hudson-Odoi, did Leno really have much to do?
No. I mean, every time Hudson-Odoi cut in, I think all of our hearts went in our mouth. We got nervous. And then he either put it, in Rosette or just kind of shanked it or put it right at Leno.
Yeah. All right. And this is from our friend Chris. He says, Forest fans should be more upset with Nuno than Fulham. And I actually agree with that. And they are very upset at Nuno because they don't think, at least the shows I listen to and the comments I've seen on social media, set him up in a 4-4-2 to start the game. They were disappointed, at least the ones I've been reading and listening to, that he set him up. And I think they are upset at him for that. I do want to just mention one final comment because I want to share this to our friend Benjamin Bird. We did talk about this earlier, but I'll just say real quick. He said, should Raul have taken the penalty? If you listen back to the show, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. The only question we had was that Giannis had was Pereira off the pitch, and that's something that we don't remember. So that is one question about it. But the only other thing was that Marco made it clear that the penalty taker was supposed to be Pereira. So that goes to the whole thing. All right. Coming up next in the second half of the show, we will talk about the starting 11 and break down both halves. And we will end with man of the match. And I definitely want everyone to comment. We have a lot of live listeners on who was your man of the match. Okay, guys, let's get to talking about the starting 11. I'll go to you first, Giannis. What were your thoughts on the starting 11? Giannis, you put yourself on. Giannis, you put yourself on mute. I'll unmute your mic.
Another senior genetist moment not happening for me, is it really?
Okay, I saw that you put yourself on mute. There you
Floyd
go.
Aite once again doing his thing. Yes.
Every show.
Yeah, yes, Floyd's in the house. The ghost of Floyd. No. I mean, it was Sander Berger may have come in for Pereira, but we know how much Marco likes Pereira, so that's no good. The only other change I saw potentially, if you were going to do that, was Castagna coming in for Tete. Apart from that, it was the lineup that I expected. There was a bit of a clamour with fans of getting Reece Nelson in, but then who do you bring him in for? Iwobi? Iwobi's done well enough to maintain his place in the starting lineup. So it was very much as expected. As I said earlier in the show, I don't think that will be the lineup against City, but I thought it was the right lineup for the game yesterday.
Okay. Over to you, Max. Was that the lineup that you were expecting?
Yeah, I think Marco doesn't like to change a winning lineup.
No.
He loves consistency, and that's what he went with. And I think I don't know if I agree with Giannis. Maybe we'll be a bit more defensive for City, sure, but something about Marco, he sticks to his guns. Who's he going to drop, Andreas? Yeah, he loves Andreas, doesn't he? He loves him.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
Pereira.
Double pivot with Lukic and Berger. I could see it. You got no De Bruyne in the middle there. If De Bruyne is injured, If you shut down the pipeline to Haaland, even yesterday with the Newcastle game, they really didn't create that much. This is the first time in a while where I think we're going to take a team up to City, and I think we can cause them a problem or two.
See, I agree
Really
with
do.
that, Giannis. And I was speaking to Tony Gold about this, and he was the first one last week that said, you know what, Russ, I actually think this might be Fulham's best chance to actually beat them at the Etihad because of everything going on with them with the Rodri situation. But beyond that, that this might be our best opportunity. Not that we're going to, but that we actually have a legitimate chance to potentially do it. I don't think
Yeah.
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I think it is crazy. Just
Oh,
it's
Max.
Manchester City. It's Manchester City, guys. That being said, everything
Okay.
you say is true. The best time to play them is the fall. Once you start playing them, after February, I think they win every match of the season by 3 goals. So you can't get a point off them in the new year. But yeah, the fall when the Champions League campaigns is starting, when their injured players are out, we couldn't choose a better time to play them. But it's still City away.
I know.
Don't get your hopes up. It's gonna be 5-0. 5-0.
Rusty optimist going crazy again. I know, yeah. I know, Max. All right. I do have a bonus topic for us because I actually saw a very interesting question and something I was just talking to Steve Reynolds about this morning. So, Max, I'll go to you first. Hi, guys. Great win yesterday. Played better against Newcastle, but signs are good for the future. Only worry is picking up a lot of bookings. This is a wonderful question and topic here. What are your thoughts about this? Because it could lead to suspensions, Max, if they keep this up. What do you make of this?
For me, it's actually it's a nice thing. It's a João Palhinha tribute moment. After Palhinha left, all the players got together and said, hey, we're going to miss João, but we want to keep his memory and let's just keep getting bookings. And no, I mean, of course it's a concern because we saw what happens when key players miss out. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than that's just how Fulham play. We're just an aggressive team and we just seem to pick up bookings in a lot. We're always in the mix.
Okay, before I go to Giannis, I do have to mention this because as we're recording this live, Delap just scored a goal for Ipswich Town to give them the lead over Aston Villa. So maybe this player is legitimate. He did score against Fulham, so congratulations to him. Now he scores against Aston Villa to give them the lead. I just thought I'd mention that. Giannis, I want to get your thoughts on the bookings. In a way, is this a positive sign because it just shows how aggressive they are? And I think Marco I think in a way he might be disappointed with so many bookings, but he wants his players to be aggressive. So it's kind of this double-edged sword situation, but it could lead to suspensions. What are your thoughts?
I think the refereeing this year in terms of yellow cards has been gruesome. I really do. Anthony Taylor gave out 14 a couple of weeks ago, and I think that the refs right now are card happy. Tete took yet another booking yesterday for what?
Yeah,
and I think a lot of these bookings for all the teams, not just for Fulham, for all teams, are becoming really, really soft. I don't like it. Now we have decent strength and depth, so if we start losing players, we've got players that we can bring in. But nonetheless, I just giving 14 yellows in a Premier League game is a disgrace. And we can talk one thing about the VAR and all the complaints about that.
Yep.
But when you see all these refs being card happy, and they're not consistent, Russ. The penalty against Tete it's a penalty, but you don't give it. But it's a foul anywhere else in the field, and according to the standards I've seen this year, that's probably a yellow. So there is no level of consistency throughout the league right now. And I'm not going to level criticism of the Fulham players because of the number of yellow cards. I'll level criticism at the officials who being so quick to deal them out for all teams this year.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, all right, guys, let's get to it. Let's talk about the first half. And Max, I'll go to you first. You've already shared your thoughts on the first half. That again, it wasn't an entertaining match in that first half, and it really was two teams basically canceling each other out. That's the best way I can put it. But I will say this, because there really isn't a lot really to talk about to go through with opportunities, because there really was one opportunity from Jimenez. You have the situation with them in the first half when they were offside and the ball was actually in the back of the net. beyond that, I thought Fulham controlled the play and really limited much for whatever Nottingham Forest were trying to do, because I think that they were absolutely just trying to stop Fulham. That's my analysis. What's your analysis of the first half?
Yeah, I think we'll take that performance in the first half of an away match to get 0-0 at the half and keep things tight. It did the job, but attacking wise, there wasn't much to speak of. As you mentioned, I thought Traore had a couple great moments. I think the one when the Forest player got a booking was just a great individual dribble and showed me what he could do. Yeah, but apart from that, Giannis said earlier, I thought it was spot on. Smith Rowe, he's your creative man. He's your danger man. Anonymous, and I think that's credit to Forest.
Yes,
they were so narrow, is what the announcers kept saying. Is that they clogged the middle, forced us out wide, and we put in a couple crosses, didn't work. So once that formula happens, once they worked so hard off the ball, it was never going to be anything special. Forest had some decent moments off kind of crosses into the box, though. They had that bicycle kick, I think, from can't remember who it was, but it was a great effort that only just went wide. But yeah, not much in it.
Okay. Over to you, Giannis. I want to get your thoughts on the first half, but I also want to talk about Smith Rowe. I'm glad that we're talking a little bit about it, because I think that had more to do with Nottingham Forest trying to stop him, because this wasn't from a lack of effort from Smith Rowe. I think that they were trying to take him out of the play. I mean, not take him out physically, just limit what he does best, because every time he was on the ball, they were right there. So I think that's more credit to Nottingham Forest than really talking badly about Smith Rowe. He didn't have a good game, but I think that has more to do with Nottingham Forest. And then share your thoughts on that first half in general.
Well, it wasn't the most exciting first half ever. I've seen better performances from Mark Fotheringham, to be honest.
Oh, we got to bring him on in there.
Yeah, but I will say that Smith Rowe had a much better second half because of the subs. Suddenly, you opened up the field, and he had a lot more space to work with. Their job was to nullify Smith Rowe, and on the whole, they did a good job of that. But they put all of us to sleep. You're at home. You're supposed to be entertaining.
That's my point. That was my point at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, just go out and play good footy. I think part of the problem was that their recent home form hasn't been great. Their last home win was against us in April. So I think they're a little bit nervous. They're obviously decent on the road. But I mean, it was even negative playing, Wood and Awonyi up front.
I didn't get that.
Two target men? Really?
Yep.
No, it just, I don't know whether Espirito Santo has been on his meds, or I don't know what was going on there. It just seemed really negative. But then again, going back to the start of the show, Morgan Gibbs-White is so massive for them. And that's why he's not going to stay there long. He's a player for a big club, and that club is not Nottingham Forest. He's a superb player, and I think their approach might have been a little bit different had he played.
Okay, very good. All right. Let's move on to the second half, guys. And we've already talked about the penalty, so we don't really need to rehash that again. But it started right off from the get-go, and they made a substitution to start the second half that I think changed things a little bit in Fulham's advantage. I think their change might have indirectly helped Fulham. We get the goal and the penalty, and then the game opens up, Max. But what's interesting, and I already talked about this, I think the substitutions that Marco made were at the right time. They were the right substitutions. And I think all the buttons he pushed worked, which I think in the end was a good thing. And we saw the match out. And in the very end, you've got Fulham could have scored another goal at the very end of the match, but they just saw it out. I thought the way that they ended it was impressive. And we've already talked about bringing on Diop. Just give me your overall thoughts on that second half. Yes, they had the opportunity from Hudson-Odoi, and that was really their best opportunity. But overall, Fulham did more than enough to win this match, and I think you saw it in the second half. And I do want to mention that Aston Villa just scored a goal. So now it's 1-1. So your thoughts on the second half?
Harrison Reed, I think, is coming in and doing quietly a very good job in controlling the match. Someone who, might have left in the summer, but was clearly told by Marco, you have a role here. Don't go. You're not going to be a starter. But again, like the Diop, you're going to come in when we need someone who can set up shop in the middle. And I thought he was calming. He was a good influence. I thought Nelson had some good moments on the counterattack. He was a really nice outlet with pace and control. Muniz came on, and, I was so delighted at the end.
Yeah.
When he could have easily gone forward and taken a shot that might have started the counter. But even with a clear shot at goal, he took the touch out wide to the left and then went back and controlled it. And I think they didn't touch the ball for the rest of the match. Obviously, we had a lot of PTSD from West Ham when we didn't do that. So that was good management style. But yeah, I mean, it was wide open at times. And, it would have been nice to get another goal earlier in the match to get that buffer. But, I was nervous. But again, 8 minutes of added time, 8 minutes from nowhere.
I don't know where that came from.
And we could have played 20 minutes and Forest wouldn't have had a shot. Like that's what I felt about them was that, yeah, they had two target men up front, and neither of them really had a sniff all match. And I think, again, credit to Fulham though. Chris Wood's one of the most on-form strikers in the league at the moment.
Where was he? Did he play?
Anonymous, totally anonymous.
And I think that has a lot to do with our center backs, our defense in general. I'm glad that you brought that up. Over to you, Giannis. I want to get your thoughts on the second half. I'm glad that Max brought this up because, I'm focusing on the Hudson-Odoi opportunity, which was a decent opportunity. But beyond that, I didn't feel really threatened by anything that Nottingham Forest did. And you want to talk about anonymous. Chris Wood was anonymous in this game, Giannis. Your thoughts?
Yeah, if anything, he should have been subbed at half time. I'm only thinking, excuse the noise, the cat's playing in the background. I would have thought that a one would have stayed on second half. So I'm wondering if he picked up a knock. I don't know if any Forest forum sites picked that up. He looked okay, but Wood did absolutely nothing the whole game. Absolutely nothing. And they really didn't have much. They didn't really have a pivot. They didn't have a focal point. Again, it goes back to Gibbs White.
Yeah.
You take him out of that lineup, and they are an ordinary team. You put him in there, and they're a good side. A good side. I mean, it's not a fluke that they won at Liverpool. I'll tell you that now. The performance on the day was much. They're a good side.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But it wasn't. It was just up front. They looked toothless. And,
okay, so
and that will disappoint Santo for sure.
Okay, so that brings up something in my head that many people listening don't want me to say. But what happens if Smith Rowe goes out, Giannis? Does that happen to Fulham?
I actually think we're okay. I think don't forget we've got Mr. Captain Kearney on the bench. We've got Alex Iwobi that can play in the number 10. Smith Rowe isn't going to kill us if he's not there. I think we've got enough players in the squad now where we've got enough quality where we could do without it. He's not even. I don't think he's at 100%. Maybe 75.
No. Yeah,
he's not there, and he looked pretty beaten up by the end of the game yesterday. But these are the games that are going to get him match fit. The game against City is going to be an interesting one for him because he is actually going to get the space that he wants. This is
that's
City
a good point.
Are going to play their game, and they won't play narrow. And Smith Rowe will get the chance to show what he can do, but he needs time. I'm saying, really, to get to the optimum level, he'll be there by Christmas. And so far, he's doing fine. So and if we pick up injuries, you look at our bench. Well, we've got a bit of strength in depth, but I'm sure that Marco's got an idea about how he can shuffle the formations to make up for it.
Well, Pereira could go back as your 10, so that's
sure.
he could do that, and then you could bring Berge in as the 8. You could definitely do that. What is your level of worrying if Smith Rowe wasn't there?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I think Giannis spelled that excellently, that we have a lot of attacking players who can play out all across that, midfield 3 behind the striker.
Okay.
That's the beauty of Fulham. And also, if Smith Rowe goes out, I think the most obvious thing would just to be put Pereira where Smith Rowe is and sub in Berge. which might even be the
Right.
more the more obvious place in terms of how players play, is to
Okay.
have two proper holding midfielders and one attacking. So I think we'll be okay. Smith Rowe is one of our most dangerous players right now, but he's not everything doesn't flow through him in the same way that everything through Forest flows through Gibbs White. So I think that's a different situation.
I agree. I think we're a little bit different. I do want to share this comment from our friend Coleman, and we're going to talk about him coming up just because we're going to talk about man of the match. A Lukic injury might be worrying, and I would actually agree with that. But I think there would be a solution there too. But I think that's more worrying than Smith Rowe going out. All right. Coming up next to end the show, we are going to talk about man of the match. So I'm going to be sharing some comments on the Facebook page of man of the match. I'll get yours. I'll share mine as well. Max, I'll go to you first. Who is your man of the match?
Sasa Lukic. I'm glad you brought him up. He's quietly been one of our best performers this season. And everywhere you looked, he was there yesterday, just mopping up attacks, starting attacks for us. His touches are just positive. He's such a physical presence. I'm so impressed by everything I see from him. And it's Sasa Lukic for me.
Okay. And I haven't decided yet. I'll probably decide at the very end because I'm split between Anderson and Lukic. But I really want to talk, Giannis, before I get your man of the match, about Lukic. Here we are. Bayern Leverkusen is playing Bayern Munich. And guess who's not playing at all? And we have a player that has stepped up. And he's not Paulinho, but he is doing such an incredible job in his role and doing it in a different way. I want to get your thoughts on Lukic.
Been brilliant. He's been brilliant. He's got back to the form he had for Torino for 6-7 years. Just outrageous. And we still miss Paulinho. I don't care when it says he was our man mountain, but nonetheless, Lukic has been sensational. I thought he had an excellent game again yesterday. Excellent. Just he's unruffled. He just gets on with the game. He's not about the histrionics. His decision making is excellent. The fluidity is excellent. Just a very, very fine player.
Okay. I'll go back to you with your man of the match. I'm just going to share some comments from the Fulham supporters. Stefan says Anderson. Stephen Murray says Tete. You can't go wrong here. Slowly moving on. Yeah, I agree. Sasa Lukic, good choice. Okay. Black, White, and Fred. Lukic or Tete for man of the match. Too close to call. Honorable mention, Anderson. Chris, I am going to share this, but makes me sick that you got to give us a Liverpool player. Man of the match, Fulham's Virgil van Dijk, Joachim Anderson. Okay. So I'm going to share some comments on the Cottage Talk Facebook page. I got a decent amount, so let me just pull that up. Actually, Giannis, while I pull that up, give me your man of the match.
It's Anderson. I thought he was just outrageous. Just outrageous. He was I would say Lukic should be 1B, but Anderson would be 1A. Anderson was just spine-tinglingly good. It was a lot of fun to watch him, and it's brilliant to have him back in black and white. It's where he should have stayed all along, and we don't want him playing for Eagles anyway. They've been shot down.
Okay.
Badgers.
All right.
Badgers. Remember, Badgers stay on the ground. Eagles are there to be removed from the air, and they're grounded. We found out yesterday because Everton beat them. I was watching highlights of that game. But Anderson was magnificent, and Chris, Virgil van Dijk, Joachim Anderson. I take Anderson over Van Dijk any day.
Oh, here we go. I love it. Okay. So I'm going to share some comments on the Cottage Talk Facebook page, and they're interesting. Dean Monroe, probably Anderson, but Robinson a very close second. We haven't mentioned Anthony Robinson. Chris Boss says Anderson for me. Colm, who was also commenting, Lukic with a special mention to our two center halves. Barry Alva says Lukic for me, brilliant so far this season. Terry Langridge says Joachim, always loved him when he was with us before. I love the way he wins the ball, then looks to come forward to set an immediate attack going. Brilliant. I agree with that. Bob Atkins says Robinson, always given his all. Mike Edwards says Lukic or Anderson. Ben Farsa says the ref. Thank you very much for that. Belinda Shaxson says Anderson. Sean Collins says Anderson. So we got a lot of Anderson, some Robinson, Tete, Lukic. We're all over the place, and that's a good thing. And Chris Goodwin says Giannis is a funny man. Yes, Giannis is a funny man. So I'm going to end with saying it's Anderson for me. But I wanted to mention Lukic because I don't think enough people are discussing Sasa Lukic and what he has meant for Fulham. So I definitely wanted to say that, but I'm going with Anderson. Guys, great show. Fantastic show. Before we go, Mr. Cohen, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is, bring on City. I think we'll know a lot about this team. We'll know a lot about this team to see how they played the Etihad against a team who is the best in the world, but maybe not playing like it at the moment. And listen, if we can continue this run of form, why not have the Russ optimist view, and why not push for top 7, top 8?
Okay, very good. Giannis, your final thoughts.
We're 10 points clear of Wolves. Incredible.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it is.
What's going on with Wolves, Giannis? What is going on there?
Well, they sold Kilman and they sold Neves, and they've not replaced these players. And even yesterday, I was watching the game against Liverpool. I didn't think they were that bad, but they're definitely missing something. I don't think they're going to be I think they're going to be fine, but they are really struggling. They're really struggling at the moment. But overall, good result yesterday. Very, very pleased. As Max so eloquently said, bring on the City, bring them on. We're ready for the buggers, and let's see if we can get something up there. I don't see any reason why we can't give them a good game, and who knows, we might even get a point.
Okay, great stuff. All right. Before we go, I just want to mention, as I mentioned at the top of the show, please check out the Cottage Talk Patreon page at patreon.com/Cottage Talk. Also, please do subscribe to the Cottage Talk YouTube channel and at youtube.com/Cottage Talk. On the Patreon page, there are 4 free episodes. If you've not listened, do listen to those episodes. And if you like what you're listening to, there's going to be a lot more to go along with that if you become a paid member. We do have a show that we're recording tomorrow. It actually will be with me and Tony Gold. We're doing this each and every week, a player rating show. And the first one was fantastic. So please do become a paid member. You'll hear that. And I got a couple of special interviews lined up. A lot of stuff on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Please do check that out. Okay. Well, it is time to go. As always, thank you to Giannis and Max. I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.